Good evening, CAN TV viewers. Welcome to Immigration Issues on CAN TV. My name is Nancy Esrifi Ochre. I'm the program coordinator with United African Organization. We are a community-based organization that serves African immigrants and refugees in Illinois. With me tonight is Mr. Robert Giles. Robert is our research and advocacy intern at United African Organization. Robert, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's good to be here, Nancy.
Great. Tonight, we'll be speaking on the topic of the recent Supreme Court decision regarding deferred action for childhood arrivals, also known as DACA, and the proposal of deferred action for parents of Americans and lawful permanent residents, also known as DAPA. I just want to remind our viewers that this is a live call-in show, so please feel free to call us with your questions and comments. The number is on your screen, 312-738-1060. As you may know, in 2014, November 2014, President Obama proposed executive actions on immigration. So Robert and I will be going through those and shedding more light on this. Robert, can you tell us a little bit about what this is?
Sure. So the new program that President Obama was trying to initiate is the Deferred Action for Parents of Americans or Lawful Permanent Residents, LPRs. And these are what you may note as green card holders. And there's several rules and stipulations to apply for this program that was proposed by Obama. You would have to have been present in the country, have a son or daughter who is a U.S. citizen or lawful permanent residents at the date of November 20th, 2014. Son or daughter can be a minor or an adult. They can be single or married. You must have continuously resided in the U.S. from January 1st, 2010 to present. You can or had to have been physically present on November 20th, 2014 at the time of filing the DAPA application. No lawful status on November 20th, 2014. And also you have to have passed a criminal background check and not have been convicted of any felony, aggravated felony, or any significant misdemeanor or multiple misdemeanors. Also is the topic of priority enforcement. So if you are not in the category of priority enforcement, which would essentially be criminal activity, gang association, or suspected terrorism, then you would theoretically apply or qualify for application of this program. And you can demonstrate that you deserve to be granted this through filing.
Interesting. So this deferred action for parents of Americans and lawful permanent residents, also known as DAPA, some of the significant things were date of November 20th, 2014. They should have had a son or a daughter, and criminal history is important as well.
Definitely, yes.
So President Obama also expanded the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program. Can you tell us more about that?
Sure. So this actually, the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, the expansion would remove the age limit. So you would no longer need to be under the age of 31 on July 15th, 2007. Start date for continuous residence period in the U.S. is advanced from June 15th, 2007 to January 1st, 2010 to present, to continuous residence in the U.S. from January 1st, 2010 to present. Additionally, you would have to have arrived in the U.S. when under the age of 16 years old and must be at least 15 years old. Physical presence in the United States on June 15, 2012, and at the time of filing the DACA application, also no lawful status on June 15, 2012. Additionally, the child should be currently enrolled in school or as an adult having graduated from high school, obtained a GED, or are enrolled in GED classes, or honorably discharged from the United States Armed Forces. Additionally, the criminal background check still applies, so not convicted of felony, aggregated felony, significant misdemeanor, multiple misdemeanors, as mentioned in the previous program, or of course otherwise pose a national threat to security.
Mm-hmm. And so the deferred action for childhood arrivals focuses on children who came here probably through no fault of theirs, came here with their parents or relatives and have lived here for a long time, probably been through our educational system and continue to live here.
Correct.
Excellent. So what protection does deferred action provide? Is it the same as a green card?
Actually, no. This is not a permanent status. It's not like a green card. So this does not particularly offer a path to citizenship. These individuals are simply deferred from deportation for a period of 3 years. However, one huge benefit to this is that these individuals be allotted the ability to work. They can apply for work authorization and actually get perhaps a decent paying job and contribute to the tax base as such. They also get permission to travel abroad. They may be able to travel with advance notice, and of course the end result is the temporary protection from deportation.
I just want to remind our viewers that this is a live TV show, so do call in with your comments and questions. The number is on your screen, 312-738-1060. So what happened with the Supreme Court ruling, Robert?
Well, unfortunately, on June 23rd, the Supreme Court came to a decision, a deadlocked split decision. It was 4-4, or I guess you can say a non-decision, on President Obama's executive action regarding deferred action of parents of Americans and deferred action for childhood arrivals. So this all started as a result of Texas, the district court in Texas, issuing a injunction on the executive action of Obama, stating it was unconstitutional. The president didn't have the legal authority to implement this policy. And this is something that they feel he should have had a public hearing. It should have went through Congress, and that his executive action was in fact wrong. However, there's differing opinions on that, and immigration is inherently a federal issue that is decided by the executive branch more often than not. So the reason for the executive action was that Congress has been in recent years very split on immigration reform, and not much has been done, unfortunately. So the executive action was rather necessary, a necessary step that Obama had to take to initiate more positive immigration reform. Mm-hmm. This led to the executive action and the lawsuit that followed. So after the lower court in Texas filed suit against the federal government, the federal government appealed, and the Fifth Circuit Court unfortunately upheld the initial ruling of the lower court, and the Supreme Court then, after the federal government fought it, took the case, and there it sat in the Supreme Court for a period of time. Since the passing of Justice Scalia, we do now have a split court, so to speak. So we have 4 justices on one side, 4 justices on the other side, 8 in total, as opposed to the 9 we would have in general. This led to the 4-4 split decision. However, Obama wants to appoint a new justice that would likely be more sympathetic towards immigration reform, but the Republicans are in fact blocking this from happening until the next presidential election.
So let's go through this again, Robert. So President Obama came up with this executive action. Then the judge in Texas filed an injunction saying that this is unconstitutional, and then it went into the Fifth Circuit Court.
Correct.
And then from there came to the Supreme Court.
Yes.
Okay. And now we have a split, a deadlock vote.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes, and the decision from there goes back down to the lower district court. In the lower district court, of course, the decision remains the same. Now, there is a potential or a possibility for the steps to regain or continue again up into the Supreme Court. However, it's not likely until the next presidential election.
So why is this DACA expansion and the DAPA proposal important?
There's three primary reasons for this. One argument is more economic activity, family reasons, and public safety reasons. So when looking at this economically, these programs, the deferred action programs, would actually give our country a great economic boost. And there's a lot of evidence to support that. So these programs, a big part of it is the work authorization that they're granted these immigrants, and approximately, or a little over 4 million immigrants will be offered work authorization through these programs. So that's quite a large number. This will put these approximately 4 million individuals in a much better position to support themselves, support their families, generate additional tax revenue for local and state governments, and also with the federal government. So a lot of people would benefit from this, not just the immigrants themselves. So within the families, you have immigrants that will be able to step away from maybe the low-paying, under-the-table jobs where they hardly can make a living for themselves. With these work authorization permits, they can now actually seek better jobs that they actually qualify for. So you have more immigrants that will be able to show their talents, their skills, their abilities, and we would see a lot of otherwise lost human potential coming to light now. This would lead to increased productivity, and there's studies that say the average income would increase within the immigrant families about 10%, which is pretty significant. The White House Council on Economic Advisors did a study that estimated that deferred action for parents of childhood arrivals deferred action for parents of Americans and deferred action for childhood arrivals, the expansion would raise the country's GDP 0.5% after 10 years. Additionally, within those 10 years, federal deficits would actually be cut by $30 billion just within these 10 years. And this is primarily due to the greater tax base, since these recipients, now working better paying legitimate jobs, will be contributing to the tax base in your state income tax, federal income tax, and such. Slightly changing the topic, you have family unity that will be affected with this. This is very important, of course. And this could actually kind of be tied to economic reasons also. But more importantly, the children would be the ones that would be greatly impacted by these policies. So children, and there's studies, to support that, this children who are children of parents who are undocumented are often dealing with undue stress and anxiety as they understand that their parents may be subject to deportation at any time. And this stress and this anxiety can undermine educational advancement and, in the long run, economic success. With the implementation of these programs, this lessens the chances of foster care after detention and deportation of a child's parents, assuming they don't have enough family to take care of them after their parents are gone. And oftentimes it's not the most ideal situation to take your child, uproot them from their American life, and bring them back into maybe a situation back in the parents' home country that might not be so ideal, be it economically or security wise or other reasons related to that. So at the end result, you're going to have much increased family stability because of this. And beyond that, there's a big public safety reason for these programs. So these programs would actually create a better relationship with the police. The reason for this is that undocumented immigrants now fear contact with the police because they have a fear that contacting police will leave them vulnerable to getting in trouble with deportation authorities or immigration authorities rather, and they then are vulnerable to crime and exploitation, and this further increases additional crime and violence in the communities. So police who know who's living in the communities, this lessens tension in the communities, increases trust and cooperation between the police and the immigrant communities.
It looks like we have a caller on the line.
Okay.
Caller?
Hello.
Hello,
Hi, hello,
caller.
good evening. My name is Matthew.
Matthew? Hello, Matthew.
I'm fine, thank you.
Good.
Please, I would like to know how do you know when your DACA expires, and when is the right time for you to renew your DACA?
So if you have DACA and you need to renew it, when should you renew your DACA?
Yes.
Okay. You shouldn't wait for your DACA to expire to renew it. I'm not sure of the number of days right now, but I think you need to renew about 120 days before, I think. I'm not very sure of the number. Can you give us a call in the office so we can help you with that?
Okay. Please, can I have your office number?
It's 312-949-9980.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matthew. Sorry. So, Rob, going back to what we were talking about before.
Yes.
The three main reasons why DAPA and DACA are important are the family ties. Most of these people have children here going through school and stuff like that. They need to stay with their parents, so build family ties, maintain family ties, and then public safety, and of course economic reasons as well.
Exactly. Yes. Yes.
So what are the next steps following this ruling? What can we do?
I think our best bet as American citizens is to go to the polls this November and vote for the next president. It's important to vote for a president that has pro-immigration views. For example, presidential nominee Hillary Clinton says that she would love to expand further immigration policies. She herself was disappointed with the recent ruling of the Supreme Court regarding the DACA and DAPA decisions. So we know that Hillary would actually make policies that would be in favor of undocumented immigrants, such as these two programs at hand. She would also likely appoint a Ninth Supreme Court justice that is sympathetic to immigration reform. So again, if the decision or the case comes back to the Supreme Court at a later time, we would have a better chance of actually passing such a program, essentially.
It looks like we have another caller on the line.
Okay.
Hello, caller.
Hello?
Yes. Hello.
Hello, caller.
Hi. So my question is, in terms of the consequences for the families, I guess that's the part that's not clear. Are these people now going to be deported, or are they eligible for deportation? Like, what does that in terms of everyday life? What are the real life consequences for the families involved?
Right. Well,
Thank you.
they are in all likelihood not necessarily going to be deported because these programs has not been passed. However, yes, they are eligible. They will continue to be eligible for deportation. So they will have to essentially live in the shadows, so to speak. They will have to continue to live as they have been living for the past 10 years or however long they've been here in this country. The Department of Homeland Security only has the budget to deport annually 400,000 undocumented immigrants. Now, they will primarily go after high priority deportations. These are people with criminal backgrounds, gang activity, things of that nature. So if you are a law-abiding undocumented immigrant, if that's an oxymoron, you would actually not necessarily be at any further risk of deportation.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. So, Robert, you were telling us what the next steps should be.
Right. So essentially, like I was saying, going to the polls would be very, very important. We have on the other side, we have presidential nominee Donald Trump, who has pledged to conduct mass deportations via Immigration Task Force, the Deportation Task Force. Now, as I was saying earlier about the budget from the Department of Homeland Security only being able to deport 400,000 annually, it may not be exactly likely. However, we just don't know for certain. So it is very important. Either way, Donald Trump may not necessarily have pro-immigration policies. He may not be for immigration reform as a Democratic elected president would have. So this is something that we definitely need to keep in mind when we do vote.
Is this a complete loss for, us?
I don't think so. I think although this is a short-term defeat, we should use this to mobilize and to use this as motivation and come out in numbers and vote, this November. I believe had Obama's executive actions have been passed, this would have actually been fuel for the Republicans to get elected a Republican presidency that would maybe try to rescind or modify these programs. So this is something that might be actually good for us maybe long term, because if we have a democratically elected president, we would more than likely have more positive immigration reform, essentially.
So does this go through the legal system again?
This definitely has the ability and the possibility to go through the legal system, without a doubt. Yes. Yes. And it more than likely will after the next president is elected.
Definitely. We only have a few seconds left, so I just want to thank you so much, Mr. Robert
Thank you,
Giles, for being with us on the show and for sharing all of this with us. Thank you, viewers, for spending this time with us. Have a good evening and see you next time. We have a few overheads to go through. This weekend is the African Caribbean International Festival of Life at the Union Park, 1501 West Randolph, Chicago. So be there Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It looks like there's a caller on the line. Hello, caller. We have our citizenship workshop coming up. As Robert said, we need as many people going to the polls as possible, so become a citizen. Apply to become a U.S. citizen.
Okay.
And then finally, on Saturday, July 30th, we have Igbo Fest in Jackson Park. That's from 2 to 9 p.m. On the same day, we also have Ghana Fest at Washington Park. And so do join us. There are many activities going on in the larger African Caribbean communities. Thank you so much. Have a good evening.